guys, welcome to Cooking with Chase. Hope everyone's having a great day. Today we are making pan roasted chicken, Brussels sprouts, and a quick kind of pan butter sauce again. So grab another drink and let's get cooking. So ran into some technical difficulties yesterday. We had a massive internet outage in our area. So we tried doing the video from a data stream, but I think Instagram was having issues as well. So I think some people kind of got half the video, some people got cut out earlier. I think this is a really great dish for kind of just a cook in general, but if you're a home cook that kind of wants to do something and looks a little more restaurant-y, a bit more professional, you can really elevate this. It's a bit of a showstopper for people who've never had a good kind of French pan sauce. So we're just going to redo the video. So if you caught most of it and you're not interested, that's fine. If you kind of want to go through the process again, we're going to go through it again. Bonus is I went out and got a chicken thigh with a bone in it, which I did not have yesterday, so we can actually go through and show you how to properly bone out this thigh. And I had a trial run, so today should be better. Okay, so we're going to start out with boning out a chicken thigh. So, as you'll see, the bone is more in the thigh than it was yesterday, which is nice. And this is what you're going to kind of see. So, you've got the front and the back, and all you're going to do, and again, the knife I used for this, I don't use a boning knife or anything, just a small paring knife. You're not butchering out a giant thing. And honestly, like when I'm doing whole chickens, this is kind of the knife I usually reach for. You know, you shouldn't be hacking through stuff. The knife should just kind of go through the joints and everything. So I just use a nice small knife like this. So you can just make an incision over the bone, right? Or kind of along the side of it. Your knife will kind of fall naturally. And you're just kind of following, there's a little bit there, that's fine. You're just kind of following the bone. And you can follow it on the other side as well. You're going to kind of end up at this point. You're just going to slide your knife underneath and cut. Now, a lot of people think that this is slicing the bone out, but actually the fastest way to do that is you just scrape the meat off of the bone with the edge of your knife. And you just work it down until you can kind of get to this point. And then you're just going to cut. There's going to be a little bit of cartilage right here at the joint. And you're just going to cut that out. And again, use your hands. This is much better than your eyes, especially when you're learning butchery, how to take the bones out of things, how to do that. Your fingers will feel much better than your eyes can see if you miss a little bit. So when this was processed at wherever this chicken was processed, they left a little bit of the rib cage on, which is fine. So all we're going to do there is, again, slide your knife underneath, kind of trim that off. Feel another little bit of bone, just knife underneath. This normally wouldn't be here. I've never actually seen that left on before, but it's fine, right? Like, you're really feeling with your fingers if there's anything left, if there's any cartilage or anything like that. So you end up with these kind of scraps, which is good. Just gonna grab a bowl for this stuff. And remember, we're keeping this for chicken stock. We're keeping this frozen. And as you do this more, eventually you'll build up. This freezes for a year at least. So if you're doing chickens over the course of a year, eventually you'll get a big Ziploc bag and you can go ahead and make chicken stock, which is great. And even if you're not making chicken stock from scratch, if you get a store-bought stock, so just throw your bones in and boil it for an hour or two, reinforce that flavor. You're using every little bit of the chicken. You're not wasting money, upping the flavor, you're pulling the nutrients as well. It's good. So at this point, there's no more bone in this thigh, but it's a very odd shape, right? So this is a kind of a chefy thing to do, right? But if we were in the restaurant, we'd be trimming this up so you end up with a nice portion that's all kind of roughly square and rectangular. And plus, this is a lot of fat and skin on the side, not really a lot of meat. So you're just kind of squaring this up, taking off any excess skin, right? Like right there, that's just fat. There's no actual meat there. So you can just make a nice cut there. And now you end up with something that is fairly rectangular. It's not going to be perfectly rectangular after you cook it because it contracts and all that, but this will give you a much more uniform shape. Get that there. I've already butchered one. I'm only doing 2 today because we already had this for dinner last night. So I'm just going to throw this in the fridge for now. Cutting board. Oh, I don't know if we mentioned this. Whenever you have a cutting board and you don't want it to move, just a damp paper towel or a damp cloth, cutting board on it, and it will lock it in. So it's really safe when you're cutting. Do that. Wash my hands. Give my knife a little wash. Okay, beautiful. And that's what you can do as well. You can have a plastic cutting board that you run through the dishwasher. If you do have a nice cutting board like this and you don't want to be butchering meat on it, they've done studies, it's perfectly safe, but just for ease of use, this is heavy. Just get a plastic one, throw a paper towel underneath it, do all your butchering, and you just run it through the dishwasher. So I've got my 2 thighs that I already butchered yesterday here. I salted these, I did them today, but I salted them a couple hours ago on the back and just gently on the skin and let them dry out in the fridge. So they're good. So I'm just going to hit them with a touch more salt on the skin. No pepper, as we talked about yesterday. Pepper is a spice and it burns. A little bit of oil. You don't need a lot of fat in your pan because there's a lot of fat in the chicken skin. And our goal is to render out that fat as we cook this. So again, I've salted the back already before. And we're just going to take this directly in our pan. Just like when you're dropping anything into oil when you're deep frying, you're putting it in and dropping it away from yourself so no oil is splashing back. And we're not touching anything. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to the flesh because we're cooking this 90% on the skin. So this pepper won't have a chance to burn. And some people like that really toasted, heavily cooked, almost burnt pepper flavor. I don't. My sous chef Zach, who is the guy I work for in Toronto, I kind of followed him around for most of my time there. He's got a real aversion to pepper and a real aversion to burnt pepper. So whenever I do this, I always make a ham. Anyway, so we peppered the back of this. We've got it down on the skin. We're just going to let this go. We're not going to try to move this because right now this is stuck to the pan. After it cooks and starts to render out, it will release. But if we start trying to move this at this point, the skin's going to tear. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes cooks at home are making, is they're fussing with their food. And if you think of a chef or cook working in line at a busy restaurant, we're doing 10 dishes at a time. You don't have time to stand there and massage each piece of chicken or steak or whatever. You kind of do a movement to it, and then you go off and you do a bunch of other stuff. So you're just going to let this chill. This is on medium, whatever, low, medium, high heat. You'll figure out your oven. You'll figure out kind of what you want. But this is a good side. Fairly fast bubble around the edges. That's how you know it's crisping, the fat's rendering, it's doing what it needs to do. So, next we're going to talk about our Brussels sprout component for this dish. So, I've already cleaned them because I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me clean a bunch of Brussels sprouts. But again, I'll show you how I did clean them, how you do it at home. Again, just a paring knife, cutting off the base, and you start peeling the leaves. So these really dark ones are pretty bitter. They're pretty tough, right? Because they're the oldest part of the Brussels sprout. It grows from the inside out. So the oldest part are these guys. But as you kind of go in, you can see the color difference between this leaf and that leaf. Right? These leaves are quite tender and super delicious. These ones are pretty tough. And we're not really cooking these leaves a lot. We're just going to gently steam them. So you really want them to be like light, super pale, and tender. So this is a good point. You can see how comparatively how light that Brussels sprout is compared to the outer leaves. Then all you're going to do is slice it in half. And that's it. So I already have some leaves, but these ones would be good. I would discard probably those. Okay, so cooking our Brussels sprouts. Small bowl. These are just some I've done ahead of time. Again, I'm only cooking one portion, so kind of about that is a very generous portion of the Brussels sprouts. It's 5 or 6 large ones, more if they're small. Dressing them with just a small amount of neutral oil and a touch of salt. We're going to be correcting the seasoning on this when they come out of the pan. Remembering that just like a steak, vegetables try to equalize temperature when they come out. So you want to do most of your seasoning after they come off the heat. Just going to give these a quick little toss. Touch more oil in your pan. Roll that around. Turn the heat slightly. You should hear a slight sizzle when you hit it. There we go. And you really need to spend the time to get these face side down. They won't cook if they're, I'm saying face cut side down. They will not cook like this. You need that face down because as they sear, the vegetable is releasing moisture and steam. The steam is getting caught in between the layers of the leaves, and that's really what's cooking it. They're steaming. They're searing the outside, but the whole inside of the Brussels sprout is actually steaming. Okay, beautiful. So, we're going to keep this bowl because we're going to take the Brussels sprouts out into there, and it just had oil and salt in it, so that's completely fine. At this point, the Brussels sprouts are in. They're all cut side down or face side down. Take a small knob of butter and throw it in there. And it doesn't need to get... The reason why we're throwing the butter in after, in my opinion, and there's a lot of difference, Josh, who's the chef at Company Bar, when he does this, he does it with no oil. He just does it with butter. That's the flavor he likes. He likes the color from that, and that is fine. For me, I like to get some heat in the Brussels sprout with some oil, and then slowly let the butter kind of melt in. It also drops your pan's dropped in temperature a little bit, so you're less likely to have that butter burn. And as it burns, we're just kind of tilting our pan and letting that fat kind of get underneath each Brussels sprout. And you can see these haven't stuck or anything. This is a very well seasoned cast iron pan. But if they have, just leave them. Don't freak out or worry if they've stuck. They will release as they caramelize, right? Okay, so this is great. That butter's cooking them nicely. We are going to talk about some of the other components for this dish. Okay. So, so this is the chicken stock that we made last week. Well, I made last week. You guys will have some if you followed along. If you don't have homemade chicken stock, store-bought stuff is fine. We're going to be reducing this a little bit. So really make sure you get salt-free chicken stock if you're buying it. Because if it's already seasoned and you reduce it, it's going to be way too salty. And actually last night when I did it, my chicken stock had too much salt in it. And when I reduced it, it was over-seasoned. It was way too salty. And that's part of cooking, right? You know? Mistakes happen. We still ate it, and it was a very delightful meal. But ideally, it wouldn't have been as salty. These are some garnishes that you can have if you kind of want to bump up what the dish looks like. These are just radishes that I super thinly sliced on a mandolin. You could do them by knife, and I got them in cold water. And what that does is it pulls out the moisture in the radish, and you end up with these really beautiful, almost floral petals. And these look absolutely fantastic on the top of stuff. And they'll hold in the fridge for quite a while. This was a single radish, but it's difficult to get them this thin by hand. So, very serious. And I use this all the time, especially when I'm doing stuff for soups and it's really quick. I'll put a link to this one. This is a Japanese mandolin. I think it's $30-ish on Amazon. A mandolin is dangerous, but if you go slowly and work up your confidence, it's a it's a fantastic tool for thinly sliced garlic for pastas, for garnishes like this, even like cabbage for coleslaw and stuff. This is a really, really great mandolin. Or potato chips if you're doing homemade fries. Or potato chips, sorry. So, okay. Our Brussels sprouts are looking great over here. We're going to check on our chicken, see what our skin's doing. So you can see that the color is coming up the side of the chicken here, right? So the chicken is telling you how cooked it is. But what I'm checking right now is the crispiness of the skin. You can see it's just released, right? Nothing's stuck to the pan. Okay, that looks great. We're starting to get some really, really nice golden color. I'm going to flip this back over for another couple minutes. Feel free to use tongs here. Gonna check our Brussels sprouts. Ooh, perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Deep, almost burnt color. So, a little toss. Yeah, that's perfect. We're gonna take our bowl. Gonna scoop these guys out. Fire this into the oven for now. Okay, so we're going to finish seasoning here. So, what I've got is this is a great vinaigrette. It's fish sauce, lemon juice, olive oil, black pepper, salt. Whatever vinaigrette you have, balsamic would be great. A red wine vinegar, just any basic vinaigrette. I wouldn't use something sweet like a raspberry, but just a simple vinaigrette would be great for this. Or just lemon juice. That's all you have. There's a little bit of that vinaigrette in there. I've got some herbs, so I'm going to do some parsley. And this is some cilantro and mint. And again, I'm just super roughly chopping this. With this stuff, even just tearing it with your hands, this stuff we're treating it more like a salad. So you kind of want to hit a bite and be like, oh, I bit into some mint. Oh, yeah, okay, there's some cilantro. And then this is how we're cooking the leaves. So, I'm going to toss the vinaigrette in there. And then we're just going to take some leaves and just put them on top and close the top lid. And this is naturally just going to steam the leaves super gently. And that's why you really want to go for those tender ones. So they don't need a lot of cooking. And if you don't have a bowl with a lid like this, it says a fish day, but tin foil or saran wrap, anything, a Tupperware with a lid, doesn't have to be a metal bowl, works totally great. You just kind of give that a little toss, and you can see the lid's bubbling up from the pressure, which is great. We're just going to put this off to the side. Okay, our chicken is getting real close here. So it's almost cooked all the way through. So I'm just going to flip it over. And you can see how bubbled and crispy, fantastic that skin is. We're just going to let the heat from the pan kind of come through that last little bit of chicken. And it'll take about 30 seconds to kind of get that going. So while that's going, we're going to pull our plate. Oh, I'll go over the last ingredients for the sauce. So we're going to make a quick pan sauce. We're going to deglaze some chicken stock, a little lemon juice, some cold butter, and some garlic. So this is just a whole clove of garlic. I'm just going to crush it. You could use the back of the knife. That's just to release some of the juice. And we're going to throw that in the pan in a second. Small plate. So, all this stuff that's stuck to the bottom of the pan, and I wish there was more to be honest, but we did a good job not moving it around too much, so that's great. That's going to go into our sauce. That amount of fat's a touch too much, so I'm just going to drain just a touch of it. And into that, I'm going to add just a whole clove of garlic and our chicken stock. And again, I can't reduce this quite as much as I would because it's seasoned. That's okay. I can go for a little bit of a reduction here. And then when you're making, so this is what they call pan sauce, super classic French. So what we're doing is we're getting rid of the fond. That's just a word that means anything stuck to the bottom of the pan. It could be after you roast something. It could be after you pan roast something. Saute it. And that liquid, you can see, is now pulling anything up. Now the bottom of the pan is completely clean. This is also a fantastic way to do your dishes and save all that stuff. Because that stuff that's stuck to the bottom of the pan is just, it can be a real pain to wash out. So I'm not going to reduce this too much because this chicken stock has a bit too much salt in it to reduce. I would probably go a little bit more if you're using unseasoned stock. And then at this point, another 5 or 10 seconds here. And this is just a feel thing. It's just, I've done this a lot of times in the restaurant. I know what I'm kind of looking for when it comes to the consistency. I can't tell you exactly how far to reduce it because I don't know how much salt is in your stock. I can't tell you how much to reduce it because I'm not there. You're just going to kind of have to do it. And the reality is, if it's a little too thin, it still tastes great. If it's a little too thick, you add a little bit more water, right? It's totally adjustable. So there, I'm kind of happy with where that's at. I'm going to add a couple knobs of cold butter. You really want the butter to be cold at this stage. So remember when we talked about mayo, okay? So you have your eggs, your mustard, whatever, in the bottom, and you're slowly adding your oil to create that strong emulsification. It's the same concept here. I'm not whisking, I'm just gently spinning the pan, and that cold butter is slowly melting into your sauce. It's creating a nice, shiny, strong emulsification because you're not adding your fat too quick, right? The cold butter allows you to slowly add that in without, if you added hot butter or melted butter already, it wouldn't have that like kind of shiny exterior. It would just be big globs of fat. Okay, so the butter's melted in. Now I know this is stable. I'm going to check this for seasoning. And you can see it has thickened slightly. You know, it's holding its line in the back. It's not quite as thick as I would like it. But that's okay. Tastes really, really nice. Like most things, I just add a squeeze of lemon juice at the end. Just to brighten it up. And we're good. That's it. So, we've got all of our components. We are going to go to plate. We're going to wipe up the mess. This. Okay, so this heat, just very gently cook those leaves. What I'm going to do is pull those leaves off. And there's some liquid in the bottom of this. Alright, that's just come from the Brussels sprouts. Come from the vinaigrette, comes from the herbs. I'm just going to take that, kind of use a spoon, drop a bunch in, and just use that to gently dress the leaves. And I'm just separating them to make it a little easier for me to plate. Right? If you were doing this family style, you would just throw this all in a bowl. I'm going to plate this all fancy because I'm stuck at home and I'm pretty bored. So I want to make a nice fancy plate of food. And it also gives you guys an idea of what you can do at home in 25-30 minutes. Just a little bit more vinaigrette on those. Okay, so got a plate here. Just taste these for seasoning. Nailed it. Sometimes you nail it. Sometimes you nail it. Just going to get the Brussels sprouts on here. We can kind of arrange these out on the edge, create a little hollow for our chicken. And it's really nice to kind of get that contrast of that vibrant green, that dark color. It's a really, really beautiful kind of thing, you know? And then you see how kind of square this stayed because we trimmed it, right? It's also going to give us a really, really nice platform to build up our little Brussels leaf salad on top. So we've got there. Okay. And we're going to start taking some of these Brussels petals. Just going to start making, without getting too fancy here. Kind of a bed, these petals here. Yeah. Then we're going to take some radishes, take a piece of paper towel, just to drain them of their liquid. See, really cool shapes. Start kind of filling in your spots. These radish petals. Then we've got some dill, fennel fronds. Okay, then we're just going to finish this off. So we're beautiful chicken sauce here. And again, it's not super thick, right? Like, a lot of people over-reduce their sauces. It's holding a stream. We're just going to kind of go around. So you don't want to top the rest of it, right? Because you spent all that time getting that skin super crispy. So it's going to be a little treat to find at the bottom of the bowl here. And yes, chef, we're going to wipe this. I hear you, Zach. Okay. And this is not a complicated dish in the sense of what is in here, right? You know, it is Brussels sprouts and radish and chicken thighs and chicken stock that you can buy, right? But this is what technique and this is what you know, caring about what you're cooking can give you. And I would be proud to see this on any menu at a restaurant I worked at, right? It's got textures and color and height. It's exciting for people. And I mean, I think it's a pretty nice looking plate. So make this at home. We have time. You know, put this in front of somebody you love, and they will be pretty blown away, right? And you can't go out to eat, so just make it yourself. And anyway, thanks for tuning in again. I hope this stream was better this time. It seemed to be more stable. I'm getting a thumbs up from the beautiful fiance over there.